Isn't it terrifying how fast a life can be taken away? Imagine being 14 years old, still thinking about school, still laughing with friends, still afraid of the dark. Now imagine sitting alone in a jail cell, accused of a crime that could cost you your life. In 1944, in the small town of Alkaloo, a young black boy named George Stinney Jr. became the center of a tragedy that would echo through history. George was only 14 years old. He weighed about 95 pounds. He was small for his age, quiet, a child by every definition. When two white girls were found murdered, fear swept through the town. Tension rose quickly, and in the middle of that fear, George became the suspect. He was arrested, taken away from his family, separated from his parents. He was interrogated alone. No lawyer, no adult protection, no recorded questioning. Authorities claimed he confessed, but there was no written confession signed by him. No physical evidence presented linking him to the crime. Just words, just accusation, just assumption. His trial began just weeks later. The courtroom was filled with racial tension. The jury was all white. The defense barely cross-examined witnesses. Few objections were raised. The entire trial lasted around 2 hours. 2 hours to decide whether a 14-year-old boy would live or die. The jury deliberated for approximately 10 minutes. 10 minutes. In less time than it takes to watch a television episode, they sentenced him to death. Let that sink in. A child sentenced to die. On June 16, 1944, George Stinney Jr. was led into the execution chamber. The electric chair was built for adults. He was so small, they had to place him on a stack of books so the straps could reach. The helmet was too big. The mask slipped. Witnesses later said tears could be seen. And in that moment, a 14-year-old boy became one of the youngest people executed in American history. For decades, the case remained closed. The file gathered dust. The world moved on. But questions never truly disappeared. 70 years later, in 2014, the case was reopened. A judge reviewed the trial. The ruling was clear. George Stinney Jr. had not received a fair trial. His constitutional rights had been violated. The conviction was overturned. His name was cleared. But he had been gone for 70 years. Justice came, but justice delayed is not the same as justice delivered. This story is not just about one boy. It is about what happens when fear replaces fairness, when prejudice replaces proof, when silence replaces truth. It is a reminder that systems can fail, that voices can be ignored, that innocence can be overlooked. And it asks us a question that still matters today. How do we protect the vulnerable when the world turns against them? How do we ensure that no child, no human being, is judged in minutes for something that deserves truth? Because history is not just something we read. It is something we learn from. And if we do not learn, we risk repeating it.